Peace and love, nonprofits and entrepreneurs. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. I will introduce Dominique here momentarily, guys, and she'll tell us a little bit about herself and her nonprofit. Also, how she's raised some funds on Facebook. I know a lot of you guys have been trying to do that, especially during the what is it called? Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday. Thank you. So come on in, guys. Say hello. Tell me what you're doing today. If you're drinking on something, tell me what you're drinking on. Some tea, some coffee, and we'll get started momentarily. I have tea and it's good.
Yeah, what kind of tea do you have?
Passion tea by Tazo.
Oh, okay.
This is one of my favorites. This is actually what hooked me on to tea. You see look how pink that is.
Tea.
That's the tea, yeah. And you don't really need no sugar or nothing.
Really?
I put a little sugar in there, but you don't need it. A little bit. Are you a tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. I'm both. I do both tea and coffee. I've been trying to do more organic coffee. One thing that I really realized with my coffee is that a lot of times it's just that I'm really just drinking sugar. With all of those like the Starbucks whips and all. So I try to if I'm drinking coffee, I try to make it at home and try to make it where it's about the coffee, not about the sugar.
You like coffee with your cream, huh?
Yeah, that's what it is. I like coffee with my cream and sugar. Hello, everybody. I see you're coming in. Let me know if you're watching, guys. I know I see you're watching, but it doesn't tell us whether you're watching from Facebook or YouTube. Tell me a little about your nonprofit or how you're doing today, how the weather is, just so that we see who's there and I can shout you out, guys. But we're going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to jump in, especially for those who will be watching the recording and things like that. Dominique, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about KBDB.
All right. Thank you for having me, first of all, Tracy. Hello, everybody out there. My name is Dominique Harris. I am the founder and CEO of KBDB Inc., which is Know Better, Do Better. It's a movement for me. I want to be able to have the door open for those returning citizens that everybody turned their back on. Once you mess up in the world, everybody is like, who is that? I want to open my arms to you to give you another opportunity. I thought about this nonprofit for almost 15 years now. We always have something manifested in us for so long that we're afraid of. So it's been well over 15 years. And I just started it with your help, Tracy. What was that? Maybe last year or the year before last, working on this. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that I actually took the faith and walked out on that, because it wasn't going anywhere. It just set on my heart and in my spirit so long that it forced me to have to go after this. And it makes me feel great to be able to have my arms open for those that everyone just pushes out, because it's diamonds in the rough, and that's what I feel like returning citizens are. They just have no clue. So they go about things the best way that they know how until they survive or die, So I just want to be there to show them what they can do and how they can better do things, for survival. And that's it about me, why I want to start it. It's just been a passion of mine, just been something that I just couldn't shake. I feel like I just owe the world a big hug.
You've been thinking about it for a while, huh? And then you just
yes, I couldn't shake it. Like, it was times I would go to church and pray about it, like, God, this may be too big for me, because I felt it. I still feel that way at times, that this may be a bit too big for me, but then every day it's still thrown in my face, and the opportunities, just like what we were talking about before about the volunteer that you mentioned. It's just still resources that are thrown at me every opportunity that I want to say, no, I don't want to do this. And then something is thrown at me saying, oh, yes, you're going to do it. And here's how you're going to do it.
Absolutely. It's flowing. It's flowing right there. Yeah. And then we were talking about volunteer match right before we came on, guys. I talked a little bit more about that in the last live if you want to check that out. But it's just a great resource for volunteers, for nonprofits. It's a lot of people who want to volunteer, and then there's a lot of people who need to volunteer for school, for their resume, for churches, things like that. And a lot of people also are kind of bored during this time. You know, a lot of people can't go out and do some of the things that they used to go out and do, and they need something that's going to, fulfill them in some type of way. A lot of people are stuck at home, but they have skills that may be able to benefit your organization: marketing, researching, budgeting, accounting, things like that. So, guys, you don't know unless you look and unless you ask. But I did not know it was 15 years. You probably told me that when we first talked, but that was a refresher. What made you like, what was the jump? Because there's a lot of people who are going to be watching who are the same way. And sometimes, I know for me, when I've had ideas that I haven't stepped out on and they start to go for a long time, you almost get discouraged. Like you almost stop trusting yourself. Like you're not going to do nothing with that or something like that. What was that jump that like kind of pulled you like, no, I'm going to start making these steps towards this vision?
Well, I worked for this company called RCI in Indianapolis, and it's a really well-known travel company, and I loved the job. Like I was in love with the job, right? But I lost it, and I went through an extreme depression for like 2 or 3 years. And coming out of that, I was like, I would never give myself to a company like that again.
Mm-hmm.
Giving your all to somebody that can easily let you go. So while I was climbing out of that depression, I started just researching more about halfway houses and researching more about real estate, because that's kind of the knit and grit of KBDB housing and halfway housing for them, because that's the most important component that you need. So I started researching that. And when I started researching that, I called you one day. Or I seen a video about what you offer, and I reached out to you, and you and I had spoke for about maybe an hour on the After I got off the phone with you, I just registered the business. I just registered the nonprofit, and when I registered the nonprofit, it just seemed like paperwork was starting to come with the name on it, and it was mine. So I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. So I kept going and just kept going. And I just been on that kept going train. Although sometimes I do get stagnant and discouraged, like about the book that I'm working on right now, building the proper board and stuff like that. I get a little discouraged, but I can't, because it's still mail coming in with my name on it. It's not a check from the company that I was working for that was willing to let me go for anything. Whereas this is my company. This is something that I'm working hard for. So it just keeps me encouraged to, okay, fill out this paperwork, complete that form, complete that website, put that on the website. It just makes you bit by bit, but you still get it
Yep.
done.
Those baby steps. That's a key
Mhm.
piece of the baby steps, because sometimes your vision is so big and you're like, that can be overwhelming in itself. Like, oh, well, what all do I have to do to be able to, to obtain this vision, to have this manifest? I need this. I need this huge building. I need this. But it's really those. But when you focus on it in that way, it's good as a visionary to have that vision, but then to break it down into okay, I'm going to get this done this month. I'm going to get this done this week. I'm going to get this done in this quarter of the year. And we're just going to keep moving and going to keep on adding those baby steps. And then we'll look up and it'll be all put together. Because it's real easy to get overwhelmed when you're looking at this big vision that, that may take some time. And the thing about it is that it is work, but it's a work of, it's a work of, what do they say? A labor of love.
Mhm.
Because when you're doing something that's yours, number one, everybody's in business. Whether you're in business for yourself or in business for someone else, no matter what, if you're working for someone, then you're working for a corporation that once had an idea, decided to start taking the steps to manifest it. And now maybe they're 20, 30 years in. And yeah, they look like a great company. And it looks like, how are you going to build this and things like that? But it's still a company that started exactly how these companies start as well. And so I think that's important, is that you start taking those baby steps, and each baby step revealed something else, pulled you a little further just to the next step, pulled you a little further just to the next step. Good morning, guys. We have LM. Is that your name, LM? If you want to put your name there. Good morning, and good morning, Charles Fleming. Love speaking with you last week as well. Good morning. Good morning. Um, so it took about 15 years, but you went on ahead and started working on it. And guys, that's another test too. It doesn't matter how long, it doesn't matter how old you are. There is a long post that has been going around for some years, just talking about different people who started their businesses in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. As long as you're here, if you want to start something, then you go ahead and take that first step. And eventually, because, sometimes people think, oh my goodness, I'm going to start now, or start focusing on what you don't have. Well, I don't really have a solid board, or I don't really have whatever you have. If it's just the idea, okay, great. This is just the idea right now. What's the next step from that? Taking those small steps. What drew you to go ahead. I'm sorry. Before I ask you.
Quick thing I wanted to say about the 15 years. Now, the 15 years was the thought, but when we are going, Tracy, it's only been maybe 2 years, and I got my 501 tax exempt within 4 months. So it wasn't the process that took 15 years. It was me that took 15. It was my confidence. It was my lack thereof. It was my procrastination. It was me that took the 10, 15 years to even go after the destiny. Once I started going after it, it's been, like I said, with the HUD stuff, I just filled out the paper, and 2 weeks later, she responded with the details, so it's not the length of how long it takes to get things done. It's just getting out your own way. It took me 15 years to get out of my own way.
That is so good, Dominique. That is so good, because I've had that happen to me so many times where there'll even be a task. I think we talked a little bit about this before I came on too. Like, if there's a task I know I'm not good at, or I know I'm going to have to, like I say, use my big brain or my whole brain. Like, okay, this ain't something that just, easy for me. Easy, I'm going to have to go. Then I will just put it off. But a lot of times once you do those tasks, you realize that, oh wait, this wasn't it wasn't that big of a deal. I did it. Even if you mess up, guys. Now, the one thing I will say is don't mess up on the IRS paperwork, because it's kind of will set you back a little bit. So try to get someone to help you if you can, or unless you just know it pretty well or whatnot. However, even if you mess up, at least you got the thing started. It got denied for whatever reason. Now you know the reason. So now you can submit the other documents. You know what I mean? So at least you started that process. But a lot of that's such a huge point that I don't want anyone to miss what you just said, which is a lot of it is all in your head. It's not the actual item, the actual thing that you're doing that's going to take that much time or that much energy or that much. It's getting outside of your head and actually starting to take some physical steps. So we now need to jot that nugget down. Someone add it into here in the comments, and I'll make sure that we save that one. Josh said, "Oh, he just did it." Thank you, Lord. Josh said, "That's good. Get out of your own way." Hey, Josh, how you doing? We used to go to church together, and someone on my team is actually, they have children together as well. Get out of your own way. You just spoke to me. Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Dominique. You just spoke to him about starting up. I believe he's about to start a nonprofit as well. So that's awesome. So that's what I was going to say is, for those 15 years, is that what you would tell someone who's still kind of starting the process right now, but they've been thinking about it or whatnot? Is that what you would say, is just take that first step?
Yeah. And just so everyone can be aware of what KBD mean and where it come from, Dr. Maya Angelou quote was, do the best you can until you know better. And once you know, you do better. KBDB. That's where I got that from. So I would say, yes, if you have something that's in your spirit and you can't shake it, and this is something you want to do, at least write. Start writing.
That's a step.
You know what I'm saying? Start writing, making it clear, making it plain, on what you want. And when you start writing, for some odd reason, it turns into steps and goals that you have to reach, So if it's just registering the nonprofit with the state, that's $35 for some states, if not 50. Some people think that it's, oh my God, it's like $1,000 to do that. Oh, it's not.
No.
But once you do it, you like, that was McDonald's that I've been
right.
all week, and if you don't know something, just Google it. Like last night, my mom was talking about she wants to sell eyeglasses or glasses, right? And so she just spoke into her phone and was like, glasses during COVID or something like that. And just so many options came up for her. And it wasn't a professional type in that she made or any professional verbiage that she used. It was just what was on her mind. And information just came up for her. We live in a time for information right for us. And use the resources properly, or ask the questions that we think may be proper, it'll get us closer to the goal. So getting out,
absolutely,
writing things down, researching what you don't understand, and just don't be afraid to make the mistake, because there's a lesson in that mistake. Like Maya said, do the best you can until you know better. And then once you know better, you just do
Do
better.
better. I love that saying. I love that. And like a computer right in your hands. Everybody have a computer right in their hands. If you're watching this, you have something right in your hands where you could do that research. Sometimes we start to be so accustomed to and used to all of the tech and all of the resources and all the opportunities we have so much to where they almost become blind to us. We can't see them. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, so back in the day, if you had to research something, you had to go to the library, look up some books. I remember those times, figure it, if they didn't have the book, they ordered the book.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I still like doing the library here and there now as well. But literally anything that comes up, you can start doing research on it right now. And that's sometimes an action step. I love what you said about writing it down, the power of writing it down, taking the idea and writing it down. That in itself is a huge action step, because
Mm-hmm.
now it's like this isn't just an idea anymore. Now this is a semi plan, or this is notes. Now I can come back to it. Now I
Mm-hmm.
can come back to where I left off, and
Yes.
so very, very good tips. What made you think about prison reform specifically and helping people who were previously incarcerated?
Well, when you look around, someone will come home, and then you look around again and they went right back in.
Hmm, that's
So
it.
what what happened when he or she came home? Like what actually happened? And I start to find, even with family members coming home, opportunities. There is nothing available. There are some things, like there are some other organizations in the area that will help with helping them find the job maybe, or helping them with resumes and stuff like that. But oftentimes they come home with no place to go. Oftentimes they come home with no encouragement. So the first thing I would do if it was me and I didn't, all I know is how to rob somebody, I probably would go rob somebody again, unless I came home and somebody taught me something different, or somebody encouraged me to do something different. And that's what I do. I want to catch them as soon as they come home with the habit. And when I catch them, then it's the encouragement that I want to put around my buildings, and the encouragement that I speak into them. So if somebody's willing to change, they will. If they're
Yeah,
not, then I know, okay, this program is for you. Maybe you can try something different, or you have your life in order. But as far as this individual that's going to take accountability, I want to be there to help them. I want to be there to support them, encourage them, direct them in any possible way that I can, so that once they know better, all they have is the ability to do better. So it was just
absolutely.
a cycle. And then every some of our black getting shot, and and they not knowing their rights, not knowing, maybe we should be quiet at this point so we can fight them in court. It's just, I see different things that's in our media, and that's just around us, a neighborhood, that requires me to do this nonprofit. It's a requirement at this point. It's no longer an option, because it's bigger than me. Because every time I turn on the TV, I'm gonna always see a problem within our community, on that black man know something, or that girl just didn't know something. And if my program was available to them, I think it'll be a difference in the, for sure. Not saying that we have to back down to what they're saying, or not saying that we have to back down and just, oh yes, sir, mass. No, it's not that at all. But if I know better on it, I can fight you different. You know,
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
respond. So that's where it comes from, just the passion of my people. And if you look at the numbers, like on my website, it gives you numbers and statistics. Um, it's a lot of us in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything I do is kind of strategic, and I just want to make sure that I'm helping all people, including
Hmm.
my people.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I love that you're creating a space for them to be able to change, and just giving them that opportunity, because sometimes it's just that one opportunity that someone needs. Like, oh, okay, You then gave me an opportunity to adjust this, an opportunity to have a safe space where I'm encouraged. I'm going to take advantage of that. Some people may not take advantage of it, but some will. And it's really just about those. You know the thing about what is it called, six something of separation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And like for an example, this week, I was speaking to someone and they had heard about our information from someone, the wife of one of the Denver Broncos players. And I'm like, well, where did that, how did it even flow to over there? And but so many times, then someone else talked to me about another nonprofit that we set up that that they had no idea that we set up. Like, yes, I'm working with this nonprofit. And I'm like, we set them up. We've been working with them, and so it's so important for you to realize that any little step that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
can you never know what change that will make. You never know what that maybe the person that comes into one of your halfway homes, maybe their child, the change that it made with that child could grow up and be, because now they have a parent that's stable and that's, so just never, it's always there's a saying that goes, I'm not trying to change the whole world, I'm trying to change my corner of the world. And I
Mm.
think if we could focus on that as opposed to this huge thing we're going to do or whatnot, but focus on those daily actions, how we can change one person, everybody who we're coming in contact with,
Mm-hmm.
then that's how we are really going to start to see some major shifts and some major changes.
Yeah.
Um, with this being 2020 and COVID-19 and things like that, how has that adjusted things for you all as far as planning or actions or things you had planned for this year? And how are you pivoting?
So this year we had planned to do a lot of community outreach, like cleaning up the city, making our community more clean than other communities, because if you notice, we just don't have that for some odd reason. So that kind of slowed down because I wasn't sure of how the city will respond with me
Mhm.
having volunteers at a certain number. So I needed to do a little more research on that. I pushed my 5K back to 2021 just to be on the safe side because of the numbers. Although they are doing virtual 50, not 501s, but virtual 5Ks and run.
Mhm.
But I wasn't comfortable with that because this was my first 5K. So I was like, I'll just push it back to 2021. But this was a great year for me to get a lot of paperwork done. I wasn't able to do a lot of community outreach because I wanted to make sure that everything is safe with this COVID thing. But I was able to focus on a lot of paperwork, things that I would have put off to the side, and got that done. So I was able to use the time wisely, just not as much hands-on like you want
Right.
to, and getting your name out there. But like social media is a really great source, and that helped me to just get the name out and offer like a one-on-one advice for some reform guys, like if they were
Mhm.
guys or men or women, sorry, if they had needed some support on like expunging. I've been doing a lot of research on that and just giving them information on how to start that. But that isn't reaching the masses, but I'm still reaching some people, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us about that social media, and we could definitely segue into that. Like, I know you've had some success raising funds on social media. I actually was just had someone on who was kind of, discouraged because they were having a hard time raising funds on social media. What are some tips that you would give? What do you think has made the your fundraiser so successful?
Drop your pride. Drop foremost. I get people talk. They're using Facebook fundraiser. So what? It's there. It's a resource. Facebook gave it.
Mhm.
It is a resource. Use it. Yes, they will take
Mhm.
a percentage, but I don't think there is not one platform out here that we use that won't take a percentage. And
Mhm.
create one for us as a nonprofit out there. Create a platform that'll be free for us, but I say use it. That's actually how I came up with like 30% of what I needed for your fee. And we just did the Giving Tuesday. And one of my board members, he started it a little late in the day, but we still made at least like $300 just off that day, and they would match. Um, algorithms on Facebook is a little challenging, but if you are able to get out there and share your campaign as much as you can, tag your friends, get on their nerves, just like every time we turn on TV, we see McDonald's a commercial,
Mhm.
Burger King a commercial, we see Walmart commercials. Do that too. Every time you get on social media, share your campaign, post your campaign, talk about your campaign, make a status at the end, put your campaign at the bottom, you know, get on people, put your side to the side and go after your mission. And it's just, you just click on that option, tell them what you want, the date you want in the campaign, how long you want it to run. Make sure you pay attention to that because you don't want your campaign to end before you thought it would end. That's what happened the first time. Because I probably could have came up with the entire fee, but the campaign ended and I was like, what happened? But I did the fine print so you can monitor modify the dates and the time the campaign to run. So pay attention to that. And the amount that they take is really pennies on the dollar. It's totally worth it. It'll go right to your account. And you can see everybody that donates. You can see everybody that donates. You can see everybody that shares it. I think it's a really great source to use, especially if you just want. Now, you're not going to get your 100,000 there, but you would definitely come up with at least about 900 to 1,000, if not more, depending on how well you share it and the people you can get it to. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And if you're doing something, see, so that's why it's so important to know your why and be tied to your why, and that your why, of course, as a nonprofit is not just about you. Because the thing is, when you're tied to some type of change, like for us, our goal is to impact our community. We want to see more people like us from the places that we're from serving our community because we know what we need. We know what's going to work. We know what's not working. And unfortunately, there is a lot of nonprofits that are a bit disconnected and they have programs, but the programs are not necessarily as impactful as I know someone can make them impactful if they have that background. You know what I mean? If they have that background of this is why this worked for me. This is why this didn't work for me. And so that's our goal. So same thing. When I'm first starting someone off on their nonprofit, as far as social media and things like that, I tell them the same thing. Get onto your personal Facebook and your regular Facebook. You should be it shouldn't be an issue with you sharing your mission if your mission is not about you. If your mission is about helping somebody, then it's much better, like you said, than McDonald's. You see that every day, and that's helping you get something in your tummy that ain't even really helping you. You know what I mean? And so if they can talk about that, then surely you can talk about what you want to do to impact minorities, what you want to do to impact people coming out of people previously incarcerated, what you want to do to impact people who are survivors of domestic violence, what you want to do to impact youth. And if not, guess what? There's a million things that people can do to mute you or whatever you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm tired of her talking about that. There's worse things that people talk about on Facebook and on social media, you know? And so if you're trying to help people, because I had to get out of my own head with that too, Dominique. Like I would not share anything. A lot of people I even had family members sometimes who would tell me like years ago, oh, I'm looking for somebody to set up my nonprofit. They didn't even know that this is what I did because I wouldn't share it on my personal Facebook. And a marketing person came in and said, why does your personal Facebook have nothing on there about what you do in your nonprofits? I'm like, well, that's my personal. And they're like, well, is that you as a person? You know, is that something that you're doing? Is that something that's important to you? Yes. Is this something I put a lot of my time and energy into? Absolutely. Is this something that's changing the world and that has brought in over $9 million into nonprofits and, you know, helped and affected so many individuals and families? Absolutely. So why wouldn't that be something I want to share just as much as any other garbage sometimes that's out on social media? You know? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They said, oh, hello, Sujan. Nice to see you. You said, feeling nice listening to you. Awesome. Oh, see, we're encouraging already. Those are some great tips. And we'll get ready to wrap up here, Dominique. The last thing that I will ask you is 2 questions. One is, what challenges are you having right now? What areas of growth do you really feel like you need as a nonprofit? And then number 2 is, what areas within that same question, if someone's watching and they want to get involved in some type of way, volunteer wise, donating, and of course we'll have her links below as well, guys. What's the highest area of need for your nonprofit as well?
Well, right now we're working on the budget and managing the board. Those are the 2 things that I've been having the biggest challenge with. And Tracy, before we started, you already let me know about the volunteer match site, which was really helpful. If I can go in and just get somebody to help me with building and organizing the budget properly, because we can throw some numbers on a piece of paper and be like, okay, I need $1 million. You have to organize it. And so just that area, and then managing the board properly so that we're all sufficient and proficient, those are the two areas. Like at this time, I can tell you all of them, but that'll be like overwhelming. It's like you really don't know what help you need until you cross it. But it's like having somebody there to call on is a great help, and being able to call on you, like send you a text like, Tracy, what the heck is blah 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 blah. Like
quick, yes.
So it's like it's a number of things that I can use help with, but at this particular moment, like those sections, we got to break it down. At this particular moment, it's more about my budget, making sure that's organized and put out there properly. And then in addition to managing, choosing the right board and making sure that they're proficient to the mission,
Awesome. Well, I will definitely tag Reginald Butler. Like I said, he did that assessment. I can't remember the name for some reason. DISC. Yes, thank you. See, team. That's awesome. He did a DISC assessment. I know he do a DISC assessment on me and my husband, which was wonderful as well, because we're a team too. You know what I mean? Like anybody you're working with, knowing what their gifted areas are and what their areas that they're going to have a hard time in is, oh my gosh, that's life changing. So he's the one that did our DISC assessments and also did a DISC assessment on our entire team. So I'll make sure I tag him and send you over his information too, so he can maybe you guys can chat about something like that. And then again, the volunteer match, and then also someone who's coming on January 9th, guys. Mark your calendar for January 9th. We will have Terry Egg coming on, who's all about accounting. She actually looked at budgets for years. I don't want to say the number because I don't remember it, but she retired from working for 2 foundations, one family, one general foundation, looking over small nonprofits, grant proposals and budgets, and deciding whether or not they approved them or didn't approve them and why. So she's going to be coming on sharing some tips on January 9th, right after the new year. I will also send her over your information so that she can contact you, and you can see if maybe she has some possible tips that she can share on that accounting on that accountant side, because that was one thing that she talked about when we talked personally. She was just saying a lot of times we overthink it, like, okay, let's just figure this out, let's look at these numbers. But a lot of times if it's something we're not familiar with, we get in our head, and we talked about that early on in this segment here, that once we get in our head that, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, we just start backpedaling from there, because now we don't even want to approach it, and we're just we're just spending a lot of time kind of spinning our own wheels. So I'll also send you over her information, and that should help with some of those as well.
So knowledgeable. Like that's the beauty of you. It's like, if I don't know the answer, I know how to get the answer. And that's important. Like that's an important component for anybody that's going into, not even if you go into business for yourself, when you go to an interview, you have to be sufficient and proficient. You have to be able to, just because I don't know the particular answer, I am able to find the answer. And if I can't, I can find the resource to somebody that's going to give me the answer. And that's all you need in life. Like that's all you need.
That's a deep point in itself.
That's
a deep point. It's so deep, because that's whatever challenge. If you're having a challenge in business, nonprofit, what you're eating, something going on with your body, something, that you can pull that out. And it's so obvious that sometimes people really miss it. But that's something that I do with my team around me, adults and my children, where if they'll ask me a question, I will, if it's the littlest kid out, he's 5, so I'll tell him to look it up for himself, but I'll tell him what I'm doing. I'm like, let me YouTube that. We need to YouTube a way to, one of his things he's been saying sometimes is, kind of huffing and puffing about school. Oh, like school, take it. He's had to start kindergarten virtually. So he's doing, 4 to 5 hours of kindergarten virtually, which is an odd way to start kindergarten. So I can understand, And so I'm like, well, let's look up ways on YouTube, different ways to make it more exciting. But now he's heard me say, let's look this up so much. He tells me, Like, can you look up, how to do this or how to do that? And so
Mm-hmm.
starting to learn that the answers are there.
Mm-hmm.
You can do your part of researching something. That's huge, guys.
Yeah.
The answers are there. Another little tip I'll give before I close on that one is the answers are there, guys, but you can also get information overload. So the best thing to do is work on one project at a time. If you're looking for an answer, find that answer, then take that next action step. Don't be like, okay, what am I supposed to do in the 10 years? Well, now what am I supposed to do in 5 years with a nonprofit?
Good
Well, now how
point.
do you start a board up? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then now it's almost like you think you're doing something, but you're not. I've been in those pits before where you just research it and you just sat there and research for a week. Well, how many action steps could you have taken in that week of research as well? So thank you so much, Dominique, for coming on. This has been wonderful. Guys, all of Dominique's information will be down here. Hey, hubby, he's watching, of course, as well. But yeah, all of the information will be down here. If you guys have any specific questions about raising funds on Facebook or anything like that, put them in this in the comment stream here on Facebook or in the stream right now. And I'm sure we can come back and look at them and possibly answer those questions as well. If you guys want to get involved or you also happen to have a nonprofit that's focused on prison reform and or just helping people who were previously incarcerated, you can feel free to reach out as well. All of her links will be down there. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you, Tracy, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for watching. KBDB Movement. That's where we're going. 2021. All of us are going to be blessed.
Yes, KBDB movement. I love a movement. I
Yes,
love a movement. What made you, as the last thing, what made you use the term movement as
because
opposed to?
that's what it is. It's a
That's
movement.
what it is.
It's,
Yeah,
I can say it's just that's what it is. It's a movement.
absolutely.
Want to move us in an onward direction. You know,
I love it. I
that's
love
what.
it. All right, guys, we will see you in the next live. We will be here next Saturday, guys, at 11 a.m. EST for the rest of the year with the holidays approaching, guys. Our hot seats that we normally do midweek, as well as grant searches and things like that, we're going to be starting back up next year. We're also going to be adding some new things next year, guys, so stay tuned for what those will be. But we will be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. That'll be actually our last live of this year. Can you believe it? 2020 is almost over. Oh, my goodness. Yes. So we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you're going out there creating those win-wins, researching some things that if you don't know it, research it. You have that tool, write it down. Thank you for reminding me about that. Write it down and get out of your own head, guys. Take that first step, whatever it is. Talk to someone, consult with someone, write it down, tell a friend, whatever you got to do to take it out of your head and put it in front of you. I'll see you guys in the next live.
Bye.